Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Balava Girvanadari Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Anacharya Yamunatira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Giravanadari Gopi Jana Balava Girivanadari Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanacharya Yamunatira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Brahmadakacharya Asadhara Sadushi Shiman His Divine Grace Lacy Bhaktivedanta Smaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Gurangi Om Agyanatimanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishubhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhuvyavacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3, Karma Yoga, text number 33. Sadrisham Chaitasa Swasya Prakatira Gyanavanapi Prakritim Yanti Bhutani Nigraha Kim Karishyati Sadrisham Chaistate Swasya Prakritira Gyanavanapi Prakritim Yanti Bhutani Nigraha Kim Karishyati Sadrisham Chaitase Swasya Prakritim Gyanakanapi Yanyadi Bhutani Nigraha Kim Karishyati. Ladies, Sadrisham Chaitase Swasya Prakritim Gyana Vanapi Prakritim Bhutani Nigraha Kim Karishyati. Sadrisham, accordingly, Chestate, tries, Swasya, by his own, Prakrite, modes of nature, Gyanavan, learned, Api, although, Prakritim, nature, Yanti, undergo, Bhutani, all living entities, Nigraha, repression, Kim, what? Karishyati, can do. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Please repeat. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Srila Prabhupada's purport. Unless one is situated on the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, he cannot get free from the influence of the modes of material nature, as it is confirmed by the Lord in the 7th chapter, 7:14. Therefore, even for the most highly educated person on the mundane plane, it is impossible to get out of the entanglement of Maya simply by theoretical knowledge, or by separating the soul from the body. There are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in the science but inwardly or privately are completely under the particular modes of nature which they are unable to surpass. Academically, one may be very learned, but because of his long association with material nature, he is in bondage. Krishna consciousness helps one to get out of the material entanglement, even though one may be engaged in his prescribed duties in terms of material existence. Therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. It is better to be situated in one's position and try not to obtain Krishna consciousness under superior training. It is better to be situated in one's position and try to obtain Krishna consciousness under superior training. Thus one may be freed from the clutches of Krishna's Maya. Sadrisham chaitase swasya prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishati. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskatyade Sadharane. Interesting word here, repression. When we think that Prabhupada's saying, don't repress your desires. It's unhealthy, as the modern psychologists say. But that's not what it says here. Repression means to try and act as if we're on the spiritual platform when we're actually not. To try to repress our material desires artificially means not to try to pretend that we're on some higher platform that we're actually on. Just like Arjuna, he had the nature of a Kshatriya, although he was a pure devotee. So his nature was to fight. But he was thinking, if I fight, then I'll have to kill my relatives who I have great affection for, and therefore I'll be very unhappy. So maybe I should repress this desire to act as a Kshatriya and instead be a nice person and go into the forest and try and act like a Brahmana. But Krishna says that even if you go into the forest and try to act like a Kshatriya, a Brahmana instead of a Kshatriya, your Kshatriya nature will come out anyhow, and you'll get into the fight with all the animals in the forest. Poor animals. So better be honest, because in this age, no one knows what their nature is, because we're struggling to become a good Shudra. Shudra means obedient to the master. And here, the only master we recognize is usually our minds and our feelings. So, to become a Shudra is quite an elevated position in Kali Yuga. But of course, we're not saying that that's the goal of life, is to become a Shudra. But the goal of life is to realize Krishna. But it's certainly it's advantageous if we understand what the qualities are as we chant Hare Krishna, especially as we do it offenselessly and feel some ecstasy and gradually see ourselves being elevated to a higher platform of consciousness. We have to know what the qualities are of the highest that are manifested by the higher states of consciousness. We can't think we've developed Krishna consciousness if our activities remain on the lower platforms. What I mean by activities is that one can act as a Shudra or a Vaishya or Kshatriya or Brahmin in the material world, a devotee can act in any capacity and still be a devotee. So it's not necessarily that if one becomes acting as a Shudra, in the sense that Shudra means they have to act, they're not independent. They need some guide all the time for their activities, or else they'll get themselves in trouble. Now, one may not be a Shudra, one actually may be a transcendentally situated person, but somehow or another, if the role in society, or even the role in the Hare Krishna movement is like that, then one should accept it, because it's only external. The real goal is somehow or another do some duty, do something for Krishna, and at the same time think about Krishna. In other words, do something to please Krishna will mean that one will actually think about Krishna. And if one thinks about Krishna, it doesn't matter externally what one is doing, as long as one is doing some authorized activity. The most important thing is that one is actually situated, again, transcendentally. It's not that if I'm riding in a, I don't know, Polski skiat, do you know what that is? Polski skiat? I don't know, what is a cheap car here in Slovenia? Fiat, yeah. It's not that I'm riding in a Polski Fiat, but I'm chanting my rounds very nicely. So now the Polski Fiat is turned into a Jaguar. No, it remains a Polski Fiat. Although the person driving the Polski Fiat is now in a different state of consciousness, certainly superior to someone who's completely under the modes of material nature in a Mercedes-Benz or some other car like that. So the car, what we're riding in, is not the determining factor where our consciousness is. It's a question of doing some duty and doing it to please Krishna. And then one will actually become conscious of Krishna. On the other hand, if we spend our lives pretending we're something that we're not, I can't even remember to wash my hands before I eat and afterwards, and yet I think I'm an elevated Brahmana. Or every other word in my I can't tell the truth I can't tell the difference between the truth and a lie, and yet I think I'm an elevated Brahmana. But my expertise is actually as a Vaishya. Then better to act as like a Vaishya than try to pretend one is a Brahmana. And at the same time cultivate Krishna consciousness. So, because in the duties of a Vaishya, you're supposed to cheat. If a Vaishya says to his customer, "My dear sir, this is the exact price of what I bought it for, and I'm charging you double," because you look like a fool. He won't sell very much. So he has to tell a lie. Everyone he meets, he has to say, "Oh, my dear sir, you're such a nice person. For you, as Prabhupada said, I make no profit. I'm just out here just for my goodwill because I'm meeting such nice people as you. I may not make any profit and starve to death, but my happiness is meeting you. It's worth it." No, one has to be intelligent enough to perform that particular duty nicely. Therefore, even something like book distribution, unless you're completely transcendently situated, and everyone that comes in contact with you becomes overwhelmed with spiritual bliss, which is pretty rare, be so much empowered, although that's possible also. Can I get some more water here? No, one has to act appropriately, especially in selling of transcendental literature. Of course, if you come back home and everything you tell the devotees is a lie also, that would not be very good. Of course, you can tell everyone how wonderful they are, and that's not so bad, because that's true, although we may not see it all the time. Or if one is a Kshatriya, which I don't think we have any Kshatriyas. No one here is going to go into the Tivoli forest and fight with a tiger, that's for sure. Because the tigers have already all been killed by some other Kshatriya. So there are no more tigers to kill. Maybe we could find a rabbit and put up a good fight. Challenge a rabbit to barehanded contest. As long as we have insurance, it should be all right. So the point is, one should know what one's nature is and do one's service. Even in the Hare Krišna movement, it's not that everyone has to be a pujari or everyone has to do book distribution. Then one should find one's nature and do it for Krishna with a sense of desire to spread the Hare Krišna movement. Then the result will be, in any circumstance, if we have our morning and evening program, hear about Krishna, then our life will become Krishna conscious. At the time of leaving this body, we'll remember Krishna and go back to the spiritual world to serve Krishna there also. But as we'll find out, that even we follow our nature, we have to be careful not to get entangled in the results, or not to get too much absorbed in the gratification of our senses that comes from following our nature. Because as Prabhupada will say in the next verse, that even the royal road, then sometimes there's danger, there's an accident, even on the best road. The conclusion is that as long as we're not fully conscious of Krishna, we have to find some service, some duty to do, and do it as best we can. Therefore, we should do some service that interests us. Something that we're enthusiastic about, that we're comfortable with. And do that to please Krishna. And at the same time, follow sadhana bhakti so that we'll have a sense of Krishna consciousness while we're doing that particular service. On the other hand, if we try to become a transcendentalist, everyone becomes a sannyasi, in the sense that one doesn't have one will not light any fire or perform no work. When they ask us to cook, we say, sorry, I've renounced everything. I'm a sannyasini now. You do the cooking. I do the eating. Because I'm a Brahmin. And even if I cook, someone else should wash the pots. Because I'm too pure to wash pots. I don't touch anything dirty. One should be willing to do all kinds of service for Krishna. But especially interesting, until we become very transcendental, is to do something we like to do. Something we can do every day and feel comfortable with. And at the same time, doesn't strain us so much that in normal life we don't have time to hear and chant about Krishna. Therefore, too much work, too much service is not good, and too much not doing enough service is also not good. Too much theory is not good without putting it into practice, and no theory is not good either. So it's called balance. One has to find a balance so that one actually feels one's body is healthy, one's mind is healthy, one's relationships are healthy, one's goals in life are healthy, are clear. And one feels encouragement, progressive encouragement, by especially improving our Krishna consciousness, and especially improving our dealings on the material world also. So we learn how to deal in a balanced way so that we don't go to extremes. Happiness and distress. We don't go out and think, well, I'm a transcendentalist now. It's winter, but I should try to become like this person, Wolf. What's his name, Wolf? There's some person who will huff. Whatever we read, we try out. So we go to Tivoli Park and try and find a lake in the winter, crack open the ice, and dive in with our bead bag, because we have 16 rounds left. And then we don't take a shower for the next 3 weeks because we're frozen. So we should try to be a little moderate in our activities, or else we'll simply go from like a yo-yo. One day we'll be in heaven or in the spiritual world. The next day we have an interview with Yamaraj and his associates. We're attending a personal meeting with the Yamadutas. So, Krishna consciousness, if we chant Hare Krishna nicely, because the whole thing is controlling the mind. Prabhupada writes, we don't work with our body, we actually work with our mind and intelligence. So according to where the mind is, where our intelligence is, that's where the body will go. So we hear very nicely about Krishna, we chant very nicely about Krishna, we see things in Krishna consciousness, then the result is that we won't be so much overwhelmed by the attractions of material nature that we can't control our mind and senses and put them in Krishna. And if we're not careful, we neglect hearing and chanting about Krishna, and we get too much absorbed in the external world, the results of it, good or bad, then the result is that our minds will be dissatisfied. And they'll gradually become more and more difficult to hear about Krishna, because we won't be in the proper mood to do it. We won't have the proper intelligence to know how to transform our minds from reluctance or apathy or the other anathas that we may have, to try to overcome them by being more positive, more enthusiastic, more attentive, more whatever, to try to actually use our intelligence to overcome the anarthas of the mind. But if we hear about the great devotees who've done so, and we learn how they've done it, and we try to put it into practice, then gradually we can conquer the mind by the development of Krishna consciousness. So I'll stop there and thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
How can we stay enthusiastic in our service to Krishna if we are not tight on results?
If we're not aiming for results?
Yeah.
Well, the result is become Krishna conscious. That's the most important result, is to see that we're doing something to please Krishna. As far as what we're doing to please Krishna, we try to get results for Krishna, but they're not for us. That's the difference. They're for Krishna. If we think our false ego is caught up with the result, that this will show how wonderful I am, the result, instead of how wonderful it is to be acting as an instrument for Krishna, and the results, wonderful results that come from acting as a result of being an instrument for Krishna, then that's the difference. One result, Krishna will also be there, and I'll be happy because I'll feel some love for Krishna. And I won't take pride in the result, because I'll know I'm just an instrument. Without Krishna's help, without the mercy of his devotees, without the materials he supplied me through his energies, I can't do anything. But he's so kind, he's allowed me to accomplish something for his mission, to act as an instrument. And therefore I'm happy to do that. Because Krishna's instrument is the most important thing that exists in this universe. And I'm glad to be part of something much bigger than my little false ego, something which was actually helpful for everyone throughout the whole universe.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Because there was this topic about situating yourself properly, I was wondering who should marry and who should stay brahmachari. How do you know? What's some indicators and so on?
Well, Prabhupada said every woman should be married and every man should stay brahmachari. So only Krishna can work that out. I have no power to figure it out. Anything else? Yeah.
If I can have a similar question. For someone who has sex desires, it's supposed that the marriage will help purify. But like in Kali Yuga, it usually marriage means getting a karmic job and devotee association. And
Anyhow, where are you getting this information from? Marriage in Krishna consciousness, which includes some degree of sense gratification, may elevate one beyond materialistic consciousness. If one is developing Krishna consciousness, well, one is actually fulfilling the duties of household life. But just by having sex or trying to gratify their senses by eating, sleeping, mating, defending, otherwise there would be a lot of self-realized animals if that was true. They live in a very nice household life. The tiger, or the lion, for instance, follows all the regular principles except for meat eating. You know, he only has sex for children. He doesn't take any intoxication. He certainly doesn't gamble. He has one bad habit, he eats meat sometimes. But everyone, you know. Others, you know, an elephant, he has a nice family. He's actually a vegetarian. Follows all the principles. But he doesn't chant Hare Krishna, that's the problem. So household life should be that the man and woman sit down and they chant Hare Krishna together with the family. They hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and they worship the deities and offer their food. And they have nice children, but you know, that's the ideal family life. And when they do that, they have nice relationships with each other. They serve each other very nicely for Krishna's pleasure. And then they develop some real affection and love for each other. And then they learn what love and affection is, and they can expand it to others too. They go out in the street and invite people to come, and they're happy to give them prasadam, because they know we're all part of one spiritual family. So household life is a process of dhanam, dhamma, and yajna. Sense and mind control, sacrifice, and giving and charity in Krishna consciousness, so that one can come to the platform of realizing that household life, even the best it can be, is not the point. The main point is developing consciousness. And then to further develop one's consciousness, one may take vanaprastha and go through the austerity, because no matter how nicely we perform our household life, there'll be some attachment there, because that's the nature of the material existence. And therefore, naturally, one will try to purify oneself towards the end of life and take vanaprastha and eventually sannyas to further purify oneself. But household life is an ashram. It's a spiritual ashram for purification, not just for sense gratification. Even in sannyas life, there's some sense gratification, I don't know of any sannyasi who doesn't eat or sleep. They're not supposed to have sex, and defense is kept to a minimum. But, there's some sense gratification in every ashram, or else you don't survive in the world. Yes.
Hare Krishna, if they develop some love to each other, then they will develop also some attachment to each other. Isn't that a problem?
You don't know what love is. You're thinking of lust. No, I'm talking about real, actual love with Krishna in the center.
Is this love without attachment to each other?
Yeah, of course it's without attachment. Who are you talking about? You're talking about attachment to the body. If you develop love for Krishna, and you see your wife and children in relationship to Krishna as their servant, then you're not attached to gratifying your senses with them. You're attached to serving them on behalf of Krishna. Therefore, you're in ecstasy all the time. And when you're in ecstasy, and your natural feelings come out, then you can see how beautiful and wonderful every soul is. And you want to serve them out of love, not out of attachment to their external body. Still, you may supply what they need, because someone may have a car, you may be in love with the person with the car, but still you put fuel in their tank and make sure that the car runs nicely, so that the person who's riding the car will feel comfortable. Anything else? Wala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
I don't know if Maharaj will figure it out. I know that I have to try to stay brahmachari. No worries about it. They will find something.
That's right.